Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for my new course on canine food sensitivity, aka allergies. Let's get straight into it. This is easily my most important course to date. It's what dominates our time. I do believe that 50% of the visitors to our site, and we've hundreds of thousands, come with a recurring skin, ear or gut condition. And that skin condition includes your chronically itchy dogs, terrible skin conditions, IBS, IBD, diagnoses, but it's chronic, recurring. It's been going on for a while. You've been constantly at the vets with it. These dominate our clients. This is who we spend every day trying to help, and we are helping. And canine food sensitivity explains a huge amount of this, and I want to explain that as to why it does. Maybe it hasn't been explained to you properly so far, but believe me, if we were playing Guess Who here, this would be the very first thing you would guess. You may have already come across the word allergies. Your pet's got allergies, as if he was just born with all these crazy deficiencies, but actually they've actually developed in your dog for a reason. Allergies you're born with, as we'll talk about later. But what you're seeing in these dogs is canine food sensitivity, and all those places that dog is glowing there, that's typical kind of places for these symptoms to appear. Who am I to talk about such things? My name is Dr. Connor Brady. This is something I have been living and breathing for the last at least 10 or 12 years. I have a doctorate studying the effects of nutrition and behaviour and digestive morphology of mammals. And then I went into guide dogs for 4 or 5 years, and then I was a pet food producer, so I saw the inside and the outside of this business for sure. But since then, for the last 10 years, I've been independent, helping anyone and everyone, talking about issues of canine nutrition and natural health, and culminated in that book there. We've helped thousands of dogs to date, and like we said, recurring skin and gut conditions are the number one reasons for people coming to us looking for help. They've been to a number of vets at this stage, and they'll try anybody, and they end on us. I am independent, guys. I have no, bar the fee that you will pay to watch this course, whatever it is, this is, I am a completely independent source of information. I spend all my days researching. I have nothing to gain but the health of your dog. And that's who I am, and that's why I am in this position today for sure. And so if you are on this course, I do appreciate your support in that matter, because it helps me do what I do, and hopefully I can help you in your quest to fix this dog. So we're going to be talking about canine food sensitivity. I've divided it into 8 different sections. I just want to give you the introduction to give you a flavour of how important it is that you listen to the advice I'm giving, the science behind it, and that there may be something yourself and the vet may have missed. So let's get into it. I know who you are. You have an itchy dog, often whitish in colour, your Bichons or your Westies or a French Bulldog, very common. And your dog is suffering a recurring skin, ear, itch or gut condition. It's one or maybe many more of those. So it's like a game. It's like a lotto, really. It's like, which one did you get and how bad is it? In terms of a diagnosis, you've heard them all. You've heard atopic dermatitis. Atopic means no known cause. We're not sure why he's itchy, but he's itchy. IBS, IBD, colitis, allergies, environmental allergies, food allergies, flea bite allergies, store dust mite allergies. And so, these are these vague diagnoses. It doesn't tell you what's happened to your dog. It's just that this is his state that he's in now at the moment. In terms of treatment, you've been prescribed monthly treatments of tablets and various incredible jabs, steroids, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, antibiotics, antihistamines, creams, all different types. And, they do work to turn off the symptoms, that's for sure, but they don't fix your dog, because you keep going back for more and more, and your dog's not getting better. In fact, he's probably getting worse. Allergy tests, if you've done one, reveal a growing list of potential allergens. There's a number of issues with those allergy tests as part of the chat later on. You've tried a variety of diets at this stage. You've even tried fresh or real food or raw dog food. You've tried everything. It doesn't seem to be working, at least not long term. If maybe it'll work for a few weeks or on and off, but there's no solution there. And you're now feeding, inevitably, a very expensive, very scientific hydrolyzed or analergic or hypoallergenic kibble, which isn't working, but you're still on the drugs and you're still on the grossly overpriced kibble. It's like a dead end. That's where you go, and if that doesn't work well, we'll just keep on feeding the really expensive kibble. you might as well feed the cheap kibble. Your dog's sick, isn't he? So that is where you are. It's extremely stressful situation, guys. It's hard if you're watching your dog suffering these conditions, that's for sure. It's also just personally very stressful, you know, trying to deal with your vet and mix confused information you're reading online, trying to help your dog. And is it leaky gut? And do I feed dry? Do I feed raw? How much of this? How much of that? And you're just going in 20 different directions. So it's very confusing when you've got a stubborn health condition like this. You're down a fortune. It's cost you a fortune to date. Hopefully you've got pet insurance, and if you don't, it can be an extremely expensive process, and you feel like you're on a hamster wheel. You're not getting anywhere. How am I doing? It's like, you know, most of this describe you. I bet it does. The American Veterinary Medical Association says, as do all the insurance companies, to be honest, that recurring skin conditions such as itch, atopic and allergic dermatitis, pyoderma, ear conditions, which I could classify as a skin condition, and gut conditions are the number 1 and 2 and 3 reasons for visiting vets today. So recurring skin, ear and gut conditions dominate why pets today go into veterinary clinics, and the pet insurance companies all say the same thing. They are far and away the most popular reason for you to go see the vet today. And it happens that the symptoms of a food sensitivity are very much those things. Symptoms of a food sensitivity include inflamed skin, okay, or a rash, a very hot, itchy rash, itching with hair loss if the dog keeps at it, hyperpigmentation, I know some of you are nodding already, nibbling their toes, chronic ear conditions, diarrhea, anal gland issues, which often result from just too much soft poo and gut inflammation, and you're going to get anal gland issues, other gastrointestinal issues like noisy tummies and flatulence, recurring gut infections, poor behaviour. So what I see there is skin, ear and gut conditions and behaviour, which is my field, and I do love it. And that's a different course. If you're interested in behaviour and nutrition, guys, I have a course there on behaviour and nutrition. I urge you to check it out. So is it possible that these two things are related? Most dogs are dry fed. Most dogs will suffer recurrent skin, ear and gut conditions, or at least the most likely reason for visiting the vets today. It's very common that this will hit dogs. Might these two things be related? Well, to start getting the grips of what the literature says, let's start with a good anecdotal example. Nothing wrong with a bit of an anecdotal example, as long as the numbers are big enough. So this is Guide Dogs Queensland. I was working in Irish Guide Dogs. I went over to Guide Dogs in Australia, and I was helping out there, and then I bumped into Brisbane Guide Dogs, and Brisbane Guide Dogs had just changed 220 dogs in training from dry to raw. The reason they did that is because the two of the biggest voices for real food and pets at the time in the 90s was Ian Billinghurst and Tom Lonsdale. This is actually 2010 or 11 actually, in fact, but they were talking about this in the 90s, and they were quite alone in that respect. There wasn't a whole lot of other people joining them on that bandwagon. Quite difficult for their career that it was, but they didn't stop them, and so now we look at them as the fresh dog fathers, the raw dog fathers we call them. But so Brisbane Guide Dogs saw what these vets were saying and said, you know what, we're just going to give it a try. We've got 220 dogs. Vet bills are our biggest expenditure. As a charity, we would love to reduce them. So if you say skin and gut conditions are related to feeding, okay, let's give it a try. So they try it with a small number of dogs. It seems to help. And then the CEO, Chris Lane, an unbelievable woman, changed this organisation and said, right, you know what, we're not feeding them dry food anymore. We're going to feed them fresh food, and changed to 220 dogs. And what did they find? Well, this piece was taken from the Courier Times, I believe, or the Courier Mail, a leading Brisbane newspaper. And Chris Lane is quoted: "A plague of health issues persuaded Chief Executive Chris Lane that change was needed, and since then there have been some remarkable results. Healthcare costs have dropped by 82%, despite our colony expanding. Serious skin and digestive issues have all but vanished, and healthier teeth and gums have been observed, along with reduced body odour and fresher breath. The switch is all the more notable because the group, a registered charity stretched for funds, was offered free dry food if it endorsed a brand." Ooh, bit of darkness there. If you're interested in a bit more of that darkness, check out my course on AFCO and the complete food myth. There's the vampires are guarding the blood banks, guys. But look at this huge population of dogs, and all they changed was diet, and healthcare costs have dropped by 82%. And particularly, they mentioned serious skin and digestive issues have all but vanished. What could be possibly happening? Why would a simple change from dry to raw or real food cause this? Like, what possible effect might be going on there if Chris Lane is to be believed? You know, quite a big figure she's after quoting there. You know, maybe there's some truth to it. 220 dogs, a charity, a CEO of a charity, and not a whole lot to gain by putting that stuff in print. Most importantly, recurring skin, ear and gut conditions. Why? What do we think is going on there? To give you the bones of the lecture, of the course I'm going to give you here, we think it's happening inside the gut. Okay, change the food, the dogs got better and less inflamed, less skin, ear and gut conditions. How come? What's all this? That there is a cross section of your intestines. Okay, and so food passes through the middle of it. And what we believe happens when you're feeding the wrong food, and when I say wrong food, it could be a number of things wrong with food, as we'll discuss later. It can be from the quality of the fats to the presence of gluten to ultra-processed proteins, mycotoxins, chemical preservatives, on and on and on. A number of things can be wrong with ultra-processed food. But either way, the gut's not happy. And what happens when the gut isn't happy? There's a thing wrapping around the gut that you may have heard about called the GALT, G-A-L-T, gut-associated lymphoid tissue. That's the new organ they found 10 years ago, the new brain. And it fires more, electrical kind of synapses and messages than your brain does. It's 80% of your immune system is wrapped around your gut, it turns out. We thought it was just fatty tissue. That's about 80% of your immune system. We call it the GALT. And the GALT does not like it when things are going wrong in the gut. And the problem is, if the GALT is activated and has to kick in and help control things, like an army starting to move in and say, what's going on there, guys? You are antagonizing 80% of your immune system. So you're really kicking the beehive when that guy's not happy. And if this results in huge amounts of inflammation. Okay, so you get a huge amount of inflammation inside the gut from the food not being right and the gut flora not being right, and then around the gut, because the GALT isn't happy and it's sending in the troops and there's a bit of a war going on. So it's a very unhappy gut. And you get lots of inflammation. Okay, lots of inflammation, which all has to be cleared away by the liver and kidneys. And it can overwhelm the body. And the body starts to stash these immunocomplexes all over the place. And you start to have your conditions of all types get aggravated. You can have worse arthritis. You'll have ear conditions. You'll have itching at the mouth. You'll have nibbling at the toes. You'll have a really itchy belly. Skin conditions that increase. You'll have gut conditions because it's a gut issue. And so it's really called a great imitator. When you've got a serious gut issue related to the wrong food or an unhappy gut, it can pop up as any one thing. And good luck to your vet or doctor trying to pin that down, that your ear condition is resulting from a slightly unhappy gut. Those two are not linked too easily by the modern health profession. But that's what we believe is going on. But I want you to keep this image in your head, okay? An unhappy gut is like a house on fire, okay? As we talk about everything from now on, this is the analogy I'll be using with you all the time. That if your gut is not happy and the GALT is, angry, like a shaken beehive, you've got a house on fire. So all these symptoms you see on the surface, they're just the smoke and flames coming out the windows, okay? And treating the symptoms repeatedly, like you guys are doing for your recurring skin, itch, ear and gut conditions, repeatedly treating the smoke or the symptoms you see on the surface is like a fireman boarding up the windows and putting a carpet over the roof and taping up all the holes and stuff in the house to stop all the smoke coming out of the house. And they go, oh, thank God, we fixed it. All the smoke is gone. And it's the equivalent of putting a plaster on gangrene. It doesn't fix the issue underneath. Your house is on fire. There's someone standing around going, would you not just put a hose inside the house? Let's put out the fire and then see what damage is left. That is the holistic approach. It's fixing what is wrong, what's causing all this inflammation. Fix that, and then you see what other symptoms are left over. Often a lot of the symptoms just disappear. So that is the holistic approach to things, and the house on fire analogy is what I'm going to be using now and again. I'm going to be dropping that in to remind you what way to look at this. Stop treating the surface symptom and start thinking about, start worrying about what's under the hood and getting that right first. In terms of studies, to give some support to this house on fire kind of analogy, we've got in the top left there, we've got group 1. This is a study about homocysteine. Homocysteine is an inflammatory marker that we all have in our immune system, and in short, the less of it, the better. Okay, the less homocysteine you have being produced, the better. It's an inflammatory marker. We don't want too much of it coursing around the blood. It's a marker that all's not well. And this study is in 2015. We've known this for 7 years now. So in group 1 we've got raw fed dogs, and at rest they've got 0.17 millimolar of homocysteine in their blood. Okay, whatever that means. But we look at dry fed dogs in group 2 there, and at rest they've got nearly 10 times the amount of homocysteine coursing through their blood. Just at rest, nothing's been done yet. So just at rest, as an inflammatory markers are about multiplied by 10 in these dry fed dogs for whatever reason. And then in group 3, they got some raw-fed dogs and they jumped them from raw to dry. And what happened? Their inflammatory markers rose by a factor of 5. So just by jumping dogs from raw to dry food, increased their inflammation by 5. And in group 4, they jumped dogs from dry food to raw. And what happened? Their inflammatory markers fell by a factor of 5. So clearly something's going on. And this study was repeated again this year by Perun and et al. And they found the same thing. They looked at other inflammatory markers and they found the same thing. Feeding fresh raw dog food, less inflammatory markers in the body. So there's something to this. Again, we don't know what markers why these inflammatory markers are increasing. Is it the high carb sugar diet, that is high carb dry food? Is it the wheat gluten and glyphosate that we know is in dry dog food, is not in raw, so they don't use wheat and crops like that? Ultra processed protein, because we know ultra processed protein is more antigenic to the body. Is it MRPs, which happens when you overcook protein and you get these Maillard reaction particles, which dry pet food and canned pet food particularly is full of? Stale quality fats. You can't possibly compare the fats in dry food to like a sardine, you know. Poor fat balance, too much omega-6 to 3, lack of life, you know. There's no probiotics in dry food ever. Chemically preserved, proudly, as if that's a good thing. You know, chemically preservatives that sit in dry food also wash over your delicate gut flora, which control a lot of this process. So that's not good news. Chemically napalming your gut flora every meal. Mycotoxins that exist on poor grain. We know dry food has a massive problem with that. Storage mites from an open bag sitting in your cupboard for weeks. No bioactive compounds of any kind of fashion. On and on and on. There's just so many things that are in dry food that could be the issue, and we will come back to 4 or 5 of those categories later to really drum it home to anybody that has clients, any vets, vet nurses, anybody that's trying to help people in their shop. You know, it's important that they know that dry dog food absolutely is not going to be the answer to your dog's problems. Clearly isn't. You've tried it and it's not working. That's why you're watching this course still. And they're not the only studies we have in our little bag of tricks here. We've got a study here in 2018. Feeding dogs commercial dry dog food increases cytokine gene receptor expression in the skin, elevating plasma IgA expression. You don't want cytokine gene receptor expression increasing the skin. More cytokines, more histamine. That's what's going to colour your skin red and make it really, really itchy and hot. So we know dry dog food does that to you. And importantly, in 2020, huge study, 16,500 participants, feeding non-processed meat-based diets during the prenatal and early postnatal periods, just before and after the pup was born, had a significant negative association with the incidence of canine atopic dermatitis in adult dogs, the #1 reason for visiting the vets today. Oppositely, ultra-processed cereal diets were associated with a significantly higher risk for cat. Okay, these are really important. So we've got way more inflammation, more histamine production in the skin. We've got more likely to develop canine atopic dermatitis, all pointing one way. And you know, we shouldn't be that surprised because ultra-processed food does the same thing in humans. In fact, you can track pretty much any disease, and ultra-processed food is going to aggravate it. We've got spiraling obesity epidemic and diabetes epidemic in dogs, so we do in humans. Ultra-processed food is linked to that. IBS, cardiometabolic issues and cancer, all sorts of things. So we know ultra-processed food does this in humans. We're not going to get away with it by feeding it to our pets. It's going to have the same effects at least. Asthma is aggravated by feeding ultra-processed food, and here we go. Higher ultra-processed food consumption is associated with greater high sensitivity C-reactive protein concentration in adults. This is all stuff you do not want if you are talking about inflammatory conditions, which is what your dog is suffering. So if you were to ask me, is it possible that the symptoms of food sensitivity dominate the recurring skin, ear and gut conditions, the reasons for those conditions in vets? I would say yes, absolutely it's possible. It's most likely the most important reason. It's the most influential reason in these issues. If you were playing Guess Who, the game where you flip it down and ask questions, you would ask, the question that knocks down the most possibilities in front of you, okay? So I'm here to tell you with this introduction that the solution to your dog's recurring skin, ear, itch, gut conditions, the solution is very simple. It's ditching all the packet food and moving the dog to a simple fresh diet in a set manner with some simple natural additions that we'll discuss that helps rehabilitate the gut. That's the solution. You've got to fix the road before you put another car down it. And if it doesn't work, we'll pursue yeast, which we have to mention at the end because this can be a little secondary issue that can develop in these dogs. that solution that I've just given you, it's so simple. A number of people are recommending how to do it. My website will tell you how to actually feed a dog with itch, you know, and you can try follow that. But there's a process here where we have to determine what's okay and what's not in your dog. This method is cheap, quick, easy, tasty, nutritious. No medicines are required. It's just so many benefits. It's so easy. It doesn't cost you much. And if it doesn't work, you've lost nothing. You've given it a go and you have tackled what could be the most likely reason your dog is suffering all these issues. It's certainly going to help getting your dog under fresh food and away from chemical preservatives and poor fats and all the other stuff that is dry pet food. Your dog is only going to benefit, and it's an important information. If it's not food, well then you know it must be something else, but you don't know if it's food or not, so you have to do this process, and it's so simple. And yet the vets aren't really recommending this as a route to you to do it. In fact, this is kind of the veterinary approach. Banfield Pet Hospital were an independent group up until about maybe a decade ago, when Mars Pet Food bought them out. And there was 2 million dogs with that organisation, 1.5 million cats, huge organisation of a collective organisation of veterinary hospitals in the US. Mars also bought Antec and all the diagnostics. They've also got 50,000 vets in the US on the payroll. Mars, the candy company. And you might say, why are they buying out all that? And we say, well, you know, Mars also makes all the pet food, you know, Royal Canin and whatnot. And so Mars make all the pet food, and they also own all the vets at the same time in the US. So, you know, if we had those sort of relationships going on in human medicine, and we went in and, you know, our doctor had a fast food clown jacket on and he was recommending burgers and chips for your kid, you kind of shrink a little bit and go, ooh, you know, where did you get these lessons? So it's not just me saying this insidiously. This is a big problem we have. The corporate sponsorship of the veterinary sector, or the buyout of the veterinary sector, essentially, is a big problem we're having. And lots of people are documenting it. This isn't just me saying it. This is Bloomberg. Okay, everyone's heard of Bloomberg, but Clenfield is the writer in 2017, and the piece is called "The High Cost, High Risk World of Modern Pet Care." I urge you to check it out if you want to get an idea of where, certainly in the US, and it's the same problem over here, guys. In the EU, I'm in Ireland, but the same problem with Ireland, the UK, and the EU. It's the same sort of advice. This is the advice coming out of Banfield Pet Hospital, the biggest collection of vets probably in the world. They have a pet wear manual that they give it to their vets and say, you know, if when a dog comes in, this is what you say, as opposed to letting the vet decide himself. So it's called the pet wear manual. And as Clenfield writes, Banfield's pet wear manual makes for interesting reading. In one example, explaining how the software is used to prescribe treatment for a dog with atopic dermatitis or itchy skin, vets are encouraged to recommend a biopsy, analgesics, topical medications, antibiotics, a therapeutic dietary supplement, an allergy diet, and a flea control package. They're required to recommend antihistamines, shampoos, serum allergy testing, lab work, a skin diagnostic package, and anti-inflammatories. It's a treatment course that might run to $900, good luck with that, for symptoms that, in a best-case scenario, indicate something as prosaic as fleas. In bold print, the manual reminds doctors, you cannot change items that were initially marked required. They must remain required. So it's not up for the vet to decide whether these antihistamines or shampoos or serum allergy testing or lab work or skin diagnostic package or anti-inflammatories are actually necessary in this particular dog. They may be required, and then you must recommend them. Again, Mars has 50,000 of these vets on their payroll as of 4 years ago. I don't know where we are today. So that is one way of doing it for sure, and that is certainly the way we hear a lot of the clients that we have coming into us they've gone down that road. And it doesn't seem to fix the dog, because, you know, if you've got a peanut sensitivity and they keep on feeding you peanuts, you're going to need all those treatments all the time, every month, and you'll end up on grossly overpriced, you know, hypoallergenic, as if they could possibly know what was hypoallergenic for the dog at your feet, pet food with these drugs and treatments. So that is one way to do it, and then there's my other way, which is like just dump all that and just move to real food in a set manner, because obviously you can't just dump everything. You can't just move off your meds instantly. We'll talk about all that down the road. So this is one type of information, and I have got a slightly different approach for sure. So that is the introduction to canine food sensitivity. That's my lure, to get you in here and get you to trust what I'm saying. We, like I said, have rehabilitated hundreds, if not thousands, of dogs with recurring skin, ear, and gut conditions and itch. You know, that's what we do. And 10 years of experience has made it quite easy for us now. The information just gets simpler and simpler, as opposed to initially, you know, it can be quite complicated with a number of different things to try. But actually, you know, a lot of experience teaches us there's quite an easy solution, guys, and I assure you it'll be given to you by the end of this course. The rest of this includes part 2 will be teaching you the difference between allergy and an actual intolerance. Okay, the chances of your dog having an allergy are actually very, very small. The word's not appropriately used, and it kind of, when you feel like you've got an allergy, it feels like you're doomed to these drugs for the rest of your life. And if you had an allergy, you probably would be. The good news is you don't. So dysbiosis and leaky gut is part 3. You need to understand that what happens when the gut flora shift into a dysbiotic state, into where the pathogenic bacteria rule. That is a very inflamed situation, and then you need to understand what leaky gut is about. Part 4 is why kibble doesn't work. You need to really understand why ultra processed kibble is not going to fix these dogs, and so we're going to spend a bit of time on that. Part 5 is there's actually, beyond just recommending kibble, there's other issues with the veterinary advice that's coming out today, such as recommending chicken and rice for a dog with gut issues. Big problem, that. And then the drugs that they're using actually aggravate gut conditions, which is not helpful at all. So we talk about that. Part 6, beware of allergy tests. You need to understand that if you have an allergy test, okay, there is some nuggets of information we can take from it. We can be guided, but please do not spend any money on an allergy test right now. At least just listen to this course and I'll tell you why. Part 7 is what to do. That's the nitty gritty. Everybody wants to skip to that, but I just make you listen to those other sections so you understand what's going on, so you can fix the dog. You know, it's understanding the root cause and understanding what's going on is what's going to help you fix this dog and any other dog you own for the rest of your life, and your friend's dog. The what to do section, I will tell you exactly to the day, to the supplement, how much everything will school the dog through to get you to this first month where I'm back to some form of good health. And part 8 is yeast and other remedies. You know, when you have these recurring skin conditions, you need a bit of advice on skin. Recurring diarrhea, you need a bit of advice on that. But yeast is a devil, and so when yeast gets going, we need to understand what that is, what it might look like, how do we test for it, and if we have it, what do we do? So that last section is really, really important. It's a new section, and it's like a secondary issue to this that can often pop up. And if you miss it, your itch will just not go away, and it'll be very frustrating. You'll think you haven't done any good at all by changing the food. That's it, guys. I hope you can join me. Come on, let's get into it. Let's do it.